3,000 Revel mopeds being taken off New York City streets. In fact, the company announced it was shutting down service following 2 deadly accidents. Critics have been sounding the alarm on Revel since it launched in 2018. Among them is Congressman Adriano Espaillat, who joins me live this morning. Good morning to you, Congressman. How you doing?
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. So we'll get to Revel in just a second, but I want to get your take on some headline-making video this morning of this arrest by the NYPD in Kips Bay. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congressman Nadler speaking out about this. We're going to play the video for you, but what is your take on what exactly unfolded on the streets?
Well, I saw the video and it looked over the top. These are protesters that are exercising their constitutional rights. As long as it's done in an orderly fashion, the protest should be allowed. This is the Constitution and this is the United States of America. So I was initially very concerned by the tactics. I think those are tactics that would lead to further escalate conflict between the police and protesters.
Your colleague in the Congress, AOC, had said our civil liberties are at brink. Do you agree with that?
I believe that we have the right to protest, and anytime there are tactics that deny us those rights or impair us from exercising those rights, the Constitution is in danger. So, yes, I think that as long as protest is done orderly and peacefully, that it should be allowed to continue on. And this will further escalate conflict between the police and people that have the right to exercise it.
To be clear, this woman, they said, was wanted for an arrest for some damage to city property. But, okay, thank you for your comments on that subject. But let me talk about Revel, because that is why you agreed to come on this morning. So nearly 2 weeks ago, you sounded the alarm after the first fatality. What was your reaction yesterday when Revel said, you know what, we're actually going to suspend service temporarily?
I think it was a responsible action from Revel to come forward and acknowledge that they need to take measures to ensure that pedestrians and New Yorkers are safe. Folks that use their services, as well as families that are crossing the street, people in our neighborhoods that feel that they should have greater measures, stringent measures to ensure that the drivers are safe and pedestrians are safe.
What were you seeing?
So I thought it was responsible action from them.
What were you seeing as problems, right? We were actually investigating them for over a week now and taking a look. We caught some people running red lights, not wearing helmets. What was your main issue with them being on the streets?
Running red lights, stop signs, going on the sidewalk, going on the wrong side of the street. These were not wearing their helmets. Of course, all of these are big issues. I believe that there should be some level of training of these drivers, and I believe that the pedestrians need to have greater safety across the city of New York. So they were positive in the sense that they acknowledged there's a problem. I spoke to them yesterday, and they're going to visit neighborhoods in my district to see for themselves the conditions there, and I think that's a good first step.
So the big question that we were trying to investigate, Congressman, is who is responsible, right? Who actually oversaw these being on the streets, and should there have been oversight from the beginning? It doesn't seem that there was much oversight from the state DMV or the DOT. What are your thoughts on who is responsible here?
The city of New York could enforce the regulations for this particular service. I know that DMV licensed them, but the city of New York has the enforcement arm to do that. We heard from the mayor yesterday, and we heard from Revel yesterday, and that they're willing to engage. I think they're willing to engage in a conversation, and they've already put forward some potential actions that they may take as a company to make sure that if and when this service goes back to the streets, that everybody's safe.
Right, but many are saying, why didn't that conversation happen prior to the deaths?
It should have happened before, absolutely, no question about it. But putting on the helmet, it's critical. Making sure they're trained before they some level of training before they get the service, they get on the scooter is critical. And of course, enforcement from the city is also critical as well to ensure that everybody's safe.
Lastly, on this topic, what would you like to see happen with Revel that would lead you to support a return to the streets?
First of all, a task force to be established that they listen to communities across the city to ensure that practices are adopted that will make sure everybody's safe. That's a view right there from my district, a very steep hill in Washington Heights where a very serious accident occurred. And we want to make sure they're trained and that everybody wears their helmet. It's
Understood.
important that people, it's mandatory that they wear their helmet. I want to see some level of training, and I think that people will be safer once that happens.
Good advice there. Switching topics now to coronavirus relief. This is a big one. How close are New Yorkers to getting another stimulus check in the mail? What do you know about this?
Well, I think the stimulus check is something that we all agree on. Maybe we disagree on the level of funding for children. We want $1,200 in the House. The Senate wants $500 as it was in the past. But the real sticking point is the unemployment benefits is $600. People are still not working. The pandemic is still ravaging many states across the country. I don't think it will be irresponsible to push people to go out and work and expose them to the virus. So in many cases, in many cities across the country, people need those $600 to continue to move forward and pay their expenses. The Senate doesn't want to give the $600. We want to do it. We want rental assistance,
Right.
$100 billion, and I think that's all important for the American people.
And lastly, we're running out of time here, but I have to get your take right now on this. You are the first formerly undocumented immigrant to serve in Congress. So I have to ask you about President Trump's decision to not accept any new DACA applications and really shorten the renewal period for DACA recipients. Your take?
He tries to slam the door on the American people, but we will have a referendum on that, and it's called an election in November.
Understood. Congressman Espaillat, hey, appreciate your time this morning for joining the Pix Morning News. Do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.